Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a very special guest, and that's Aptera's designer, Jason Hill, who will be with us today. So we'll give everyone just a minute or two to trickle in. And in the meantime, if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat, it would be great to know who's here and joining us today. Looks like we have a good group.
Yeah, exciting. So glad to be here and to be able to chat on behalf of Aptera and with everybody. And Sarah, it's great to see you.
Sure. Thank you so much. I think we have a pretty good group here. So we can go ahead and get started. Perfect. So I wanted to go ahead and introduce Jason first of all. He's the founder and president of 11, and he's worked with clients in the automotive industry, everyone from Subaru to many other leaders. He was actually the first designer at Porsche's American Design Studio. And he was a fundamental part of our team here at Aptera from the very beginning. And he can share a little bit about the history, and he has some amazing stories about seeing Aptera. We're so fortunate that we have him, here today with us. The first thing that we're going to do, I'll let Jason go ahead and introduce himself and share a little bit about his vision. And then we're really going to dig into how he sees the role of design and how that plays into Aptera, how it resulted in the Aptera that you see today. And then we'll talk through a little more just the why. So why does Aptera look so unique? What are some of those key features that make Aptera stand out? And he'll share a little bit of that with us. And then we'll move on to the Q&A. So just please note, we do have a long list of questions that we have from social media that we'll be going through. So we'll answer those first. If we do have time at the end, we'll definitely go ahead and answer some of the rest too. So thank you all so much for being here. Without any further ado, actually, this is a great segue. It's a never before seen image of Aptera camping. So this hopefully will be something that we'll see many more times in the National Forest up ahead. Jason can share a little bit more about this. It's really exciting, and it's a great segue into the role of design at Aptera.
Great. Thank you so much for it, Sarah. Yeah, let me begin by just talking a little bit about the role of design and Aptera, and also kind of set a little bit of history and go back on how design came to Aptera. And remember that Steve and Chris had this idea as they got together, and they did a great job of moving it forward and kind of putting it out there, and got themselves really in a place of great excitement to bring in all their intelligence and their desires. And they ended up, they got a piece of advice that said, that's great idea. You need to look for an automotive designer. And so Steve, being, it's what you do, he Googled automotive designer, and he got a friend of mine. And that friend said, yeah, I got someone who would be perfect for that, and made the introduction. So Steve reached out to me, and we began a journey. And my journey and the role of design at Aptera is to support the vision of the efficiency model and what that means for mobility and transportation in vehicle design. Steve and Chris were very generous with their vision in the beginning, and I asked a lot of tough questions, and they had good answers. They had this wonderful naivete with this mixture of incredible intelligence and drive that I felt was a good fit. So to bring it forward a little bit, I never lost touch with Steve and Chris after performing the roles in the past in the original design executions. We actually did 4 generations of Aptera designs, interior and exterior, beyond the Mark Zero, which was crafted by Steve and Chris themselves. And then I remained in touch on both a personal and business level. And a couple years ago, actually just a little more than 2 years, I kind of got the rumblings that it was maybe a good time, and we started talking, and Chris and Steve, we met and said, they said, would you like to, do this again? And I said, well, honestly, I never stopped designing the Aptera. And what I mean by that is that there's such a purity in this mission and a beauty in the goals and the execution that we could have done and should have done and almost did, that you never really let go of that. You really want to kind of see it through. So it was the right time then for the basic goals, and now it's the right time even more because the technology, the process, let's say the general environment has caught up to where Aptera can be once again a leader in this space. So just again, a shout out to Steve and Chris for their support, and I enjoy a wonderful relationship with their engineering minds, their business minds, and they also appreciate my input from all things design related. So that's kind of the basic role of design at Aptera. We look at everything from a standpoint of design and how it first functions, how it's achievable, what is the cost of the weight, what is the cost of the outcome. And we look at things also from the visual. That's the stylistic or artistic side. If it can mix all of those beautiful things of engineering with the aesthetic, not requirements, but kind of manage the aesthetic outcome, I've considered to then, I would consider it then a good job to uphold these principles and these visions and make this Aptera design ethos core to the company. So that's about it. Sarah, if there's anything else you want me to touch on related to that, let me know.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that's a great segue. I have quite a few questions. So maybe you can just touch a little bit, kind of starting out, why. Tell us a little bit more about, the why behind Aptera's very unique shape.
Sure. The why goes to a couple different points. And again, back to, the historical part, like I've been very blessed to work on several, not only aerodynamic vehicle designs and car designs, but also electric vehicle platforms. And when I saw Steve's original, this is another kind of little bit of a look back, as I remember very clearly the original yellow Aptera 300 miles per gallon on the cover of Popular Science. And I said, oh, I know that shape. That's a great shape for aerodynamics. They really need a designer. Did not know that designer would actually become me, but it has worked out wonderfully. Okay, so the shape is based on a little bit of historical reference. There's some studies based on what's called the Morelli body, and that shape is known to be incredibly efficient next to the ground, let's say, right? So it's not what you would want up in the free stream of the airflow, but something you would want closer to the ground because it essentially presents a cambered body. And this shape has been, used in a few different ways in vehicle studies. So it's already been, let's say, not vetted, but it's a great starting point, and it dovetailed very well with what Steve and Chris understood the issue of the aerodynamic drag and how to take that, as they like to say, how to take that to zero or get close. So knowing that, you start with this shape and then instead of working from the outside in, even though we have this kind of general direction of this beautiful shape, my role was to then turn around and put the people in it comfortably. And we used the right metrics. So we have the right elbow room, we have the right head room, we have the right H point to heel point, those distances. So we built the new shape around 2 occupants. And then you have to look at vision and comfort. What is the seat, or not beyond the seating position, what is the reach envelopes for all the activities you're going to do in the interior. You have to be able to see out the sides and out the front, and in some cases out the rear, although we're moving beyond that in such a wonderful way, technology-wise. So we looked we worked towards what is the perfect shape, and then how does that manifest itself in a couple different ways for the function of the vehicle, which is aerodynamic efficiency coupled with the weight, coupled with high level of design, and that kind of formed the basis to execute a vehicle based around this shape.
Great. Thank you so much, Jason. That's great.
Sure.
That's a great overview. We have a long list of questions. I just wanted to call out, thank you for everyone who's putting some questions in the chat. That's great. There's a lot of great detailed questions that I see that are coming out. Just wanted to point everyone, if you haven't seen, we have a really detailed FAQ. It's actually a giant Google spreadsheet that has a ton of questions, answers to questions that we started compiling after the last technical FAQ. So definitely, I saw some answers to some of those are in there, although anything that hasn't been answered yet, we try to answer that and put those questions in there. So keep referring to that document for those of you who have questions. And I'm also seeing a lot of requests for, we want new stuff, we want images, we want new, we want updates, we want progress. So rest assured, there will be some new stuff that Jason will be talking a little bit about during this presentation. And we're committed on the marketing end to continue to bring you guys new stuff that's exciting, because there's a lot of really exciting stuff happening. So we want to share that out with you. So just a couple notes there before we get going. As I said, we'll hopefully have time to answer a few of these questions at the end. But first question from the group. I think I'm actually gonna stop sharing maybe and then spotlight your video here.
Okay.
Jason, I think I can do that here. Let's see. Actually, yeah, go. Let's see. Actually, sorry. Here we go. Okay. There we go. Sorry, guys. Hopefully you got Jason spotlighted there. Perfect. Okay. There you go. So first question. So tell us a little bit more. Were there any new packaging freedoms in the design process for Aptera? First question.
Any new packaging freedoms? Great question. Well, there's in vehicle design, there's always packaging freedoms and packaging limits. With the layout of this vehicle, we have a dual challenge, because you have to maintain the efficiency of the shape for aerodynamic reasons. You have to maintain the efficiency of the shape for human reasons, ergonomics, which includes ingress and egress. And then we have to package powertrain. And in this case, the powertrain is based around an energy pack, or batteries. And it's a wonderful experience when you realize you can use that to your advantage. We don't have a large engine compartment. We have a base of batteries, and we build upon those bases of batteries, and then we make sure to balance out that with the needs of the shape. And we try and achieve the best, not compromise, but the best balance and the best metric of everything. So again, with the technology that we're facing and we're integrating with Aptera, both in process but in execution of and available technologies, is such an advantage to get closer, with a high degree of confidence of the 100% efficiency goals that we have. Now, and one of those areas is batteries. We've got smaller packs with higher density, which are more balanced and just working better for us overall. And then how do we put those in the right shape and that fit in the vehicle to maintain the good vehicle dynamics? That's been a real challenge, but it's also, I don't know if it's called a freedom so much, but it's definitely, catalyst.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. This is a good one. So how can I get involved, help, talk to your engineers about future designs, or even get a job at Aptera?
Right. Okay. Getting the job of Aptera, that's not my department, but I know that that in general, the process with design and how it fits is always to seek the best advice, and then defer to a single, let's say a single decision or a single direction. And if it fits in that direction, it goes that way. And we look to our own experience, and we also look to all the advice that we can garner from Aptera supporters and everything, and address those types of things. There's many things that I know there are huge questions about functionality, and what about this, and did you forget that? and I just want to speak to that, is that we went through a whole, or let's say the process involves making sure that nothing is superfluous, but also nothing is left out at the expense of anything. Whether it's inclement weather performance, whether it's user functionality, whether there's a place to put your cup. Are there cup holders? Of course, that's just a standard now. Can I reach things? Does it feel right? Is it the right materials? The level of design and input that we put into the CMF, the color, materials, and finish, is incredible this time. And we balanced out, and we've gone so far beyond like things like the recyclable materials. Those are nice standards now. 10 years ago and plus, they were a little bit more exotic or a little bit more unknown. But now we have a great base to draw from, of all these materials, all this technology, and the joy of the design process is bringing it all together. And I think, again, for the Aptera is going to be adding multitudes of people, and it's a very dynamic situation, a very dynamic company. It was a joy to work closely with them years ago. It's been a joy, even though we've been keeping quiet for almost 2 years, until very recently, but we wanted to really get everything together and then go, hey, here it is again. We've done it even better than before, and we hope you like it.
And it's sure beautiful. Okay, does the name Aptera, meaning wingless flight in Greek, how does that factor into the design?
Steve's named this vehicle and named this company Aptera, meaning the wingless or wingless flight. And he has an affinity for the thought process, classical Western and classical Greek thought process. And it makes sense because it does evoke the efficiency of flight. And, flight is power versus gravity versus, friction of aerodynamic forces. So there is a relation to that, but I'm not sure that, we didn't look at any of those specific wingless insects and design from there. But at the same time, we looked at, and the process, the great thing about design process, you can get the inspiration from all over. And then you, again, put it through this, you balance it out with, is this achievable? Like, does the art fit with the engineering? Does the engineering fit with the manufacturing? And by the way, that's great, but does the user go, I don't get that. I don't want that. That's cold or that whatever. So there's a lot of influence from nature, but not necessarily from the actual insects. Okay.
Thank you. Can you explain some of the interior features? You mentioned a bit ago, we've got some interesting features. We have a backpack, we have a center console cover, we have some new features. Could you talk through some of those and other features?
Yeah, the interior is the main thing, right? It's literally the starting point of the user experience, even though you have to get from the outside to the inside. But what I really wanted to bring and focus more on is, when you're in the vehicle, it feels right, literally feels right. Like it just your space and your relationship to the environment feels right. You touch things and those feel right. The execution of the basic interior, as far as the ergonomics, was paramount. Then we move to what's the functionality, and what are the things you need, and what are the things that you want, right? So there's needs, wants, and you balance out those things. Then the next level is what is the technology bringing? How can we minimize our energy usage for the things like the HVAC? How can we maximize our use for the screens and minimize analog and maximize digital? And what are the trade-offs on that? What are the benefits and drawbacks? If any of you can recall the original Aptera interior, and I was trying to find some of those sketches, and I do have them somewhere, but basically back then, I thought it would be perfect situation to have a single screen with all the information. And this was a little bit before the iPad came out, so we couldn't do that. and you notice the original one featured a center screen, and then we had 3 kind of rear view vision cameras. But that was, at the time, it was the best we could do, but now we can do much better. So this interior design is picked up off of that ethos of, you know, simplicity. And one more thing about the design process, which is so rewarding to me, is that everybody's got great ideas. Everybody has great advice. And my job is to hear words and put them into actual visions. And the greatest reward is when you can kind of do that, and you mix the engineering, you mix all these things, and then someone says, that's exactly what I was talking about, which happened with Steve. He says, you know, I realized you could see what I couldn't see, but you took my words and made it real. And that's the role of design, the job of a designer. And it's so much fun. And I remember we also, going back to the interior features, I wanted just this single screen, and was like, no, that's impossible. You can't do that. You have to have an entertainment system, and it has to be doubled in, automotive standard, and, you know, And it's like, no, we need to be beyond that, because we're not building a car. We're not building an automobile company. We're building an ethos and a product and an item that just thrives by its efficiency in engineering, its efficiency in design, and then it brings joy to the user. So one of the things that I'm really happy with, that we're going to have such a great time with, and I'm sure the users are going to really appreciate it, is the flexibility and execution of the interior. We have to put the best materials in the right places. We have to put the best functions and the best accoutrement and details for all of the users. And we have to make it in an efficient manner. When you have an unlimited budget of, you know, say a super or a hypercar or whatever, these, you know, even these fantastically heavy EV trucks with 1,000 horsepower or whatever, you still have to manage this. And what we want to do is make the interior parts achievable with a premium finish. And the premium finish has to do with the materials. So we've created a design, the way the parts go together is very, very cost effective, so we don't have to charge for the beautiful materials. Now, we'll be able to change and upgrade and add materials as needed. So once you've set the right tone for the interior and the right feeling, and then you've added the right controls, the next level is, okay, what are these extra things I need? And you highlighted some of those, like coupler is going to be right in the center where you need to access it. We are developing a couple ways to let's say actuate the armrest. And again, through the design process of, do we do it like a car, or do we do it in an Aptera way that gives you a better result with a premium and a wonderful experience? One of the things you showed was a center console cover. We're developing that now. Actually, we just kicked off the new version of that program. You're going to be able to have as standard a very simple cover that goes on the center tunnel that you'll be able to put items in. And one of those items, of course, will be your smartphone. And the smartphone, the cover will incorporate the charger. So we've removed the charger from the vehicle and put it into the cover, but the cover is part of the vehicle. So it's just a different way of approaching kind of the use and the function of everything. Same with an add-on, I'm calling it a soft glove box. You'll have a secure storage area that is on the IP, but not, let's say, in the IP. So we're moving beyond the manufacturing constraints of lockability and things like, and tools and all the complexity into a more simple execution. Another level is this this backpack. What I'm looking at there is how to maximize some of the utility of the space behind the passengers, the driver and passenger, and be able to reach over and put something in storage safely. And then, of course, we have the whole back half of the vehicle, which is about 25 cubic square feet of storage. So it's actually quite spacious, which then leads us to a little bit of the camping mode. In fact, today we connected with our R&D specialist on tents. So we're going to rapidly kind of prototype, vet, and execute some workable and visible, like real tent options for this wonderful vehicle. Anything else back to the interior? I think again, materials. We'll have access to charge ports. We'll have access to the center screen will feature all of your infotainment. You'll be able to handle any audio upgrades from we have a speaker system, for example, things like that. So that's kind of the overview, but it's a really exciting process, especially from a CMF standpoint. Some great materials that we're using, and then kind of bring that together as a super comfortable, highly designed interior that just brings joy to the user.
Okay, thank you. That's really great. One interior feature we get a lot of questions about is the steering wheel.
Yes.
So tell us kind of what's going on with that. People are asking about stuff that's happening right now, and tell us some real car facts. And so tell us a little bit more about some things that are happening. What's going on with the design of Aptera currently?
Okay. Yeah, the steering wheel is, we started off with the concept was a little more of like a square-ish, and that was relative to, what we call like a tight lock one-to-one steering. But, moving beyond that, we've evolved the design to be a little bit more round, circular. We've developed a nice section that feels good, comfortable in your hands. Also, we went through a process. Again, the design process is so iterative and so wonderful and rewarding. You got to find the right thickness that most people are comfortable with, right? You don't want it too thin. It's got to be covered in the right material. It can't be too squishy, just all of those things. So we're also, working around the adjustability. So we're using, a column that will give you a standard amount of adjustability fore, aft, up, and down in order to fit what feels comfortable for each of you.
That's great. Thank you so much. How about the 3 round lights next to the logo on the driver's side? What's up?
Okay. Yes. Great. I'm glad we get to finally address that, because it's a wonderful feature that that I'm using a visual cue to help you with your relationship with the vehicle, literally your relationship with the vehicle. So every Aptera user will have an app, and that app essentially will be the key. And the key will talk to the vehicle. And what I wanted to do was engage, because we need a very nice surface condition for aerodynamic performance. And also factored in, of course, safety, but we wanted to control the door and control your ingress and egress through the app. And the idea is when you approach the vehicle, you'll be able to basically wave your hand over the B pillar, and those 3 lights will light up in a sequence that goes from bottom to top, and that will release the door in order for you to reach in and open it fully. And we're using this kind of scarab or butterfly type doors, and they also bring us a lot of help with the ingress egress. So again, you approach your Aptera vehicle, kind of wave your hand a little bit, magically. The lights go up in sequence, the door pops, and you enter. When you exit the vehicle, you'll do the same. You'll shut the door, you'll wave your hand, the lights go down in sequence, and then you know that your vehicle's locked. So it's a visual cue to know which mode your vehicle's in.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, the logo remains lit at all times.
Cool. Okay. We're going to move on to, I have seen a couple things about rear view mirrors, camera systems. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. I was just watching another video with Steve and Chris, and Chris addressed it very well. Like we have a system that uses cameras and uses video screens in order to project and give us the feedback of what the vision is behind. We looked at a lot of systems that have been developed, and we drew on our experience, and we're in such a great place with technology that we can apply these cameras and these screens and get a very high fidelity visual feedback that is actually premium and better to what you would get with a regular mirror. Now, if there's any compliance issues, we can look at what those guidelines are, which of course, Aptera is a unique vehicle. So we're drawing on what needs to be done via the motorcycle regulations, what should be done and could be done via the automobile FMVSS regulations. And we're kind of hybridizing the best of both worlds to achieve that. We're very confident in our position with the cameras. And there's more cameras than you would think. And as we go through and we test everything out, we're realizing like how wonderful these systems are becoming. But if otherwise, I can address maybe the placement of the overhead. The overhead mirror, which would serve as your standard rear view mirror, that is a nice large screen which gives you a full view out the back. And ideally, we'll tie that in with some of the side cameras and then even present a little bit wider field of view without the distortion that you would normally get. And then we have the interior ones, and this is an important part that we really looked at. The interior rear view mirror screens are placed in a, let's say, a common position that would not be distracting. And this means that if you have too much activity directly in front of your line of sight and your vision, it becomes too distracting. So there's a balance that we've looked for and how to maximize the efficiency of these screens and their placement in order for the user to get accustomed to it and then enjoy that relationship with the vision and how that manifests itself in when the driving experience.
Will there be an adjustable suspension?
That is a little bit beyond the design part, but I do not see why there wouldn't be.
Okay. How about fog lights on the front wheel fenders for better visibility?
Currently, both front wheel pants have lighting elements, and they are auxiliary lamps that are necessary for exactly that, for vision. And I wouldn't call them fog lamps because that's an environmental condition, but they are. Our lighting scheme has been evolved and vetted to the level where we know what lights we need, and then we know what lights we want, and we're having that. But yeah, the lights are present on the pants, and they will serve their function along with the reflector needs on the rear of the vehicle.
Just jumping ahead a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about the design of the wheel pants? Is that fixed or is that still in development?
It's not fixed. It's very close. In other words, we're still iterating on exact shape, but also functionality. I know that this is a common question, like how do I change a tire, or can I remove that? It's like, again, going back to what does the user need? Somebody's going to need to remove the wheel pant or change a tire, and that goes for the rear wheel skirt or the front wheel pants. Those are all being designed, and we're iterating on that now on how exactly the attachment logic is, and combined with what's the weight penalty, what's the functionality. But yes, the short answer is you'll be able to remove those wheel skirts as a user as needed. And then we're always looking at how that relates to the performance of the vehicle, but also some of for example, the camping version, we expect to offer a slightly different wheel pant just for that more robust driving conditions.
That's great. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Are these electric or mechanical windows in Aptera?
Great question. They're electric, lightweight, robust, and we've designed a window curve that will give us fits fully down into the door, and yeah, all electric.
Okay. How about conventional sun visors? Will those be provided?
A short answer is yes. We're working on a couple of really trick options for that, but yeah, we'll need to be able to standard block out the sun a little bit more than your normal normal visor.
Okay, how about as it relates to glare? How much glare will come off the glossy dash under the windshield? Will that be an issue?
Great question. What glossy dash? It's not gloss. It's I probably some of the design renderings show it as a little bit more gloss to show off what there's actually solar cells. These cells are fantastic. They are very thin, they're very lightweight, and they're very efficient. They're also very flexible in one direction. So we looked at how to best maximize the upper IP, or what you would call the dash surface, and place those. They're not. Their finish is kind of a dark blue and almost black. So it's not that old, when you think of solar, you think of those blue crystalline large panels. That's not what these are anymore. These are pretty dark cells, almost black in some light. And we can finish them in in kind of a matte finish, and that doesn't degrade the performance of them. So the reflectivity off of them is much less than one would expect.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. I'm moving. Actually, one last question related to kind of features and style of Aptera.
Is it going to be about solar? There's more we can talk about solar.
There is. Yeah, let's go. Actually, let's segue into that. And I can come back to, there's another one, because I think that's actually a great segue. Why don't you share a little more about Aptera's solar philosophy in general? Let's start there.
Sure. And again, I'm gonna bring this back to Steve and Chris and talking to them, because we, and working with them, I should say. Back in the day, we added the solar to kind of help provide a steady state interior, so we wouldn't be using a lot of electricity or energy to cool down a hot vehicle. And we've just gone so much further than that this time. And what happened was we were talking about what the range should be. And Steve and Chris were doing their math, and they said, "Hey, this is great. It looks like we can get 500, maybe even 600 miles." And I said, who cares? Give me 1,000. Can you do 1,000? And they're like, "Well, no, let's see what we can do." So they came back and they said, "You know what? We found out that with all the advances and the way we're doing things, we should be able to get 1,000 miles range out of a 100 kilowatt pack." And I said, "Okay, that's the goal." Then we got to the solar, and we started, let's say, adding solar cells, and it ballooned, it flared into this. How many cells can we get on there, and where do we use that energy? How much can we really get out of that, and where would it go? So we started laying out cells basically on the shape, and we didn't want this, again, because the cells are so lightweight and they flex in one direction really well. We started looking at fitting them on the existing surface, and we found that we could get a fair amount. And then we were kind of a stumbling block, and I looked and I'm like, something's not right. We're not doing this right. And I turned them on a 45. So I went from a square pattern layout to a diamond pattern. And that ended up adding something like 25 or 30% more cells overall. So then we looked at, okay, this is all the cells we can get. And Chris and Steve were super excited because they realized how much energy that was. And then they started calculating the potential miles and things like that. So it was like, this is great. We're going to make this standard. Now, standard solar for Aptera means that your upper IP, your dash, your roof, and the six chevrons, or the 6 cells at the back, the little chevrons at the rear tail cap. That's your base solar included with every Aptera. Beyond that, we said, okay, well, we have the hood, and we have the hatch. So let's see how many we can get there. So we laid all those out, and it was really wonderful exercise to, combine, again, these engineering goals with this fantastic, let's say, motif. And it ended up being kind of the design, the look took care of itself. We didn't design it to say, let's make it look cool. It just worked out so beautifully with the execution. And it was just a joy to, process through that. So again, now Aptera has a solar foundation that's one of the pinnacles of efficiency, and we can build on that by adding the hood or the hatch.
That's great. That's really cool. Okay, couple questions regarding windows and glass.
Yes.
Some as it relates to solar panels, some as it relates to rolling the window all the way down, getting your in and out through the window. Is that possible? So maybe could you speak a little bit more to kind of questions around the windows and glass overall?
Sure. The window drop was a key feature. You know, we knew that we'd have to have a functional window drop for your in and out, but also just for fresh air when you want to do that. I mean, you do take an aerodynamic hit when you drop the windows. So we wanted to figure out the balance between a full drop, no drop, half drop, and what that execution would look like. The doors need to be a certain shape in order to preserve the safety structure and the safety cell size. So we knew with the curvature of the body and everything else, we'd probably best be served with kind of that beautiful supercar look of a half window, and you'd be able to reach in and out. You wouldn't have to open the door. And then we wanted to minimize the aerodynamic impact. So we just did a lot of tuning on that. And I think we'll be able to tune it even a little bit further because, what we call flush glass, flush conditions are really good because it doesn't annoy the air. And that's your goal. You want to keep the air happy and just not really wasting its energy or pushing against you as it flows over the vehicle. It's always a joy for me to see some sort of statement or question like, "Oh, that thing's going to flip off the road in a high wind when a truck passes it." It's like, no, actually, the wind goes right over it from side, from front, from whichever. There's a reason that heavy square vehicles, i.e. trucks, tip over in high winds, and it's not because they're heavy. So back to the glass. The rest of the glass, was there something specific on solar on the outside or?
Transparency for rear, yeah.
Okay. Because we have a camera system, when you have a full solar hatch, you're not looking out the glass. You're looking at the screen and getting a full vision of the back. There are vehicles on the road today that you can buy that have exactly that. You can actually toggle between a regular mirror and be like, "Oh, I can't see out this," or you have the camera system and you can see a full vision behind you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving into the section on why three wheels, tell us a little bit more about some of the possibilities for different sizes and widths as it relates specifically to Aptera's design philosophy.
Sure. I mean, obviously, with the foundation of and the original idea of Steve and Chris, we're building on that vehicular efficiency, and the foundation is that the three-wheel topology with two in the front and one in the back will give us the best efficiency for an aerodynamic platform. We're losing the friction, we're losing some of the weight, we're gaining some of the things that are inherent, and one of the dimensional things is the stability. So you have these 3 points, and the engineers have done a brilliant job of kind of maximizing the position, the center of gravity and center of effort in order to give you a stable ride. We are always looking at, and we've gone through many variations of widths and lengths and heights. And I think in the future, we'll be able to not only adapt to different markets, but also creatively and properly use the Aptera ethos into, I gotta be careful here, into vehicles that have more than 3 wheels. And we look forward to the success of this vehicle as our not vanguard, what's the right thing? Just this vehicle that just has all of the good Aptera philosophies and ethos and executions in it, and then we'll branch out from there and make the adaptations as needed.
That's the Paradigm Edition. So
exactly.
There you have it. Everything, the best of the best in the Paradigm Edition. Okay, great. Well, we're getting towards the home stretch here. We have about 15 minutes. We can answer a couple more questions. Just wanted to address a few things that I've been seeing in the chat here. First off, a lot of questions about becoming an investor, and that's amazing. We're so excited to have everyone, all the interest. We will be opening up another round of funding later on in the next few months. So if you are interested, you can go ahead and reach out to info@aptera.us and specifically let us know that you are looking to be added to that investor list, and we'll make sure that we get that information out to you as soon as we can. Also, you can check the best way and fastest way is to check our social media, and we'll make sure and be posting whenever that information is there. And then also, I saw a couple around like tax credits, EV tax credits, and lobbying and things like that. Same thing. If you have any interest in that, we are really ramping up our efforts to get out there and to be kind of more vocal in a lot of these issues that are happening. So if you are interested in that, again, email the info address, and hopefully we can get you guys on the list and move forward. So thanks. Saw lots of those questions, so just wanted to point those two out. So moving in to kind of the last stretch here, can we talk a little bit more just about the safety of Aptera? Of course, that's critically important for all of us. How did that factor into kind of the design in mind overall?
Yeah, great question. I mean, safety is the first thing that I can think about when we look at this shape, and it's got to be executed in a way. And luckily, we have this wonderful engineer who has been able to give us the topology for manufacturing, and also the size and shape for the ergonomic needs for people. And then it turns out it's just really strong. So that's your first part, is you've got this strong safety cell, or this this cage. A lot of that has to do with, let's say, it's not my department, right? I'm always helping to understand the philosophy or inject a kind of design ethos and thinking into that part of the philosophy. But the engineers have done a great job with making sure that its first primary structure is super safe. I love the fact that we're using the foam injecting, because that gives us another just whole level of strength. Where I really come into it is, how do we execute normal, let's say, safety features, the strength of the seats, the anchors for the seat belts, with the positioning and the execution of airbag systems that we're vetting now, and how does that feel? How does that relate to what a normal, let's say, normal operation of a vehicle would be? The reaction that always addresses, oh, it looks unsafe. Okay, it looks unsafe, but we're working to make it be beyond safe as needed. So that's always a driving force, and you can find that in all the critical questions that get asked to the founders and any engineer with Aptera. It's that safety primary factor. Nothing's been compromised on that aspect.
Thank you. Wonderful. And it's been wonderful. We've had such great interest and excitement from our fans all over the world. I saw just in glancing, we've got, many from Europe and, all across the world that are on this call today. So thank you. We really appreciate having you here. It's so wonderful.
That's
it's
great.
The reason why we're here. Honestly, the support and the advocacy that we have had and that we've seen, and, it's been amazing. So thank you everyone for that. It's wonderful. A big question that we're getting from our European fans and others, will we be designing an RHD model, right-hand drive model?
I don't see why there's no barrier to that. Okay. I mean, we, our friends in Great Britain, and then a few other markets in the Southern Hemisphere, and other places, that shouldn't be a manufacturing hump or any other thing like that.
Great. Okay, well, that was the last planned question I had for you. So I have a couple more that I'm just going to keep throwing out while we have 10 minutes with you.
Sure.
Talk to us a little bit about size. We've had people just size of human and wondering, fitting inside comfort level, what is it like to sit inside Aptera? How, is it going to be squished? Is it going to be roomy? Tell us a little bit more about what that experience is going to be like for some.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the whole vehicle is designed around a standard, which is a 95th percentile human. And then we can accommodate larger people, right? It doesn't max out, but the bigger the person, then the margins start to go down. And same with the smaller person. The smaller the person, then you've got to move the seat further forward. You got to adjust things. But the standard is built around a very tall, I think it's 6'2", so that would be 1.10 meters. I'm not sure. No, 1.8 meters, 1.9, somewhere. It's about a 6'2" adult male is the largest, or the standard that it's built around. So this means headroom. This means side everything. It's all built to that level. And then we want to give enough leg room, so we have to have enough seat travel in order to accommodate those with longer legs and those with shorter legs. So all of that is, that's what we do as vehicle designers. And again, I get to work with these amazing engineers and challenge them, and then they come back and say, no, can't do that. And I say, no, try it this way. And then they go away and scratch their head, and they get mad, and they come back and they say, okay, we found out how to do that. And I'm like, great, now let's make it awesome. And it's just a joy to do all of that, especially with Aptera. And what I'm especially proud of on this go round is we really started on the inside. We knew what the outside was going to do. We knew we could adjust that, but we've got to get the inside right, because that's where all the user is going to enjoy their experience.
That sounds great. And we'll get, I've definitely seen in the comments here, lots of questions for, into specific interior measurements. And if we don't already have those on the FAQ, we will get those to you. If there's anything that's not on there, let us know, please. We'll make sure and get all of those exact details to you guys.
Right.
So let us know. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Let's see, anything as far as kind of Aptera, we didn't really talk, you talked a little bit about kind of the display, but anything, we were getting some, you mentioned music, but what is the experience going to be like as far as kind of some of the features that you might see specifically relating to how users and drivers will engage with Aptera?
Great question. The goal here through the ethos, but also the design execution, is to be free of hassle and clumsiness. I've hit upon this theme that, as much as I like the vehicle landscape today, the vehicle landscape of tomorrow is amazing. And it includes freedom from things, freedom from a key fob, and freedom from, having to push a bunch of buttons and reach over and be distracted. And it's just, you realize like the future is so clean and so luxurious in experience. And that's something that I'm really wanting to have all of our vehicles just be that engaging experience. And you'll start not missing things. Like you realize that you won't need that key. You don't have to pull it out of your pocket. You don't have to aim it. You don't have to push it. You don't have to, there's lots of things that we're like taking away and giving back to the user, the joy of mobility, and the joy of the freedom of mobility. It's a wonderful thing. And again, I can trace a line from these original sketches, but also that original Type 1 Aptera interior with a single screen into this one. And I know that we can look at some other products that are either out there or coming that have a very similar philosophy, and it's for a very good reason. And that's going to be so joyful to build upon this interior. And again, one thing about the alpha builds that we're doing now, and then as we iterate towards production, is the goal is to improve it. Like we will have done a great job if we can have a better execution than what you're seeing now. And there's nothing really stopping us from that. There's no barriers anymore to this nice execution.
Great. That's wonderful. Okay. Last question. I think we kind of moved over it fast in the beginning here. So I actually wanted to go back to this amazing image. And I just wanted you to tell us a little bit more because it's such a cool shot. It's something that's so unique about Aptera. It is one of the offerings, the add-ons that we have available for those of you who have reservations.
Right.
While they're still available, hopefully you got the add-on for the camping. So maybe could you walk us through just what we're seeing here, what this is, what it looks like, what it's going to make possible for Aptera drivers?
Sure. Yeah, this is a lot of fun from a design standpoint, but it comes from a foundation of some user desires, and we know this from kind of what's happening in the automotive, let's say, landscape or the automotive experience. There's a lot of movements that are using vehicles in a much different way and using types of vehicles that you wouldn't consider or you wouldn't normally associate with these types of activities. So this springs from some of our discussions and how, let's say, easy it would be and how efficient it would be to connect with nature using an Aptera, but recognizing some of the challenges of perhaps being, not on a paved road. And then once you're there, that's great, especially with 600 or 1,000 miles of range. So we just kind of jokingly said, well, let's put a tent on it. And it was like, yeah, all right. So we've developed, this idea that you'd be able to put your seats forward, add a inflatable kind of mattress in there, and then open up the hatch and kind of tent out the vehicle. So what you're seeing here is one of the design iterations. In fact, I think I mentioned earlier, we just connected with our not manufacturer, but our tent developer, right, who has experience doing this and will help us to manifest this. Hopefully, we'll have these ready for that. And it's also combined with the road condition or the ride condition. These are the vehicle's a little bit taller, or sorry, it rides a little bit higher, and the front wheel pants give a little bit more clearance fore and aft. And and remember, the front wheel pants are not fixed; they move with the wheel. So the wheel and tire don't compress into that volume or that shape. Though that shape is independent, so it moves up and down. So this image, though, like I said, with the camping, we want to show that the freedom of mobility and the freedom of travel, but also the heartfelt, limited use of resources. It feels really good to go so far using so little, or go not that far using so little. So that kind of underpins everything. And how can we get that enjoyment of ownership and user functionality? And we think this is a great manifestation of the potential of Aptera.
And how does this build on or work together with the off-road package?
Oh, well, we would imagine that you would kind of do both. I mean, you wouldn't have to. You can obviously go to many campgrounds where you're never touching dirt, but it'd be nice to be able to kind of go off trail or off road, and we just kind of see them functioning together. That's why it's pictured here in a meadow-like setting.
Perfect. Well, I think we possibly have time for just, I guess, any last comments you want to make before we wrap up, Jason, just as far as, what's next, what you see, where you've been, any last remarks you'd like to make. This was a great conversation,
Sure.
Really taking a step back. Everyone, so much excitement around Aptera, but it's great. And it's great to take a step back and just look at, what the thought that went into it. It's so much more than just what you see. So maybe just any last remarks that in
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. I'm still riding my nice espresso high. Maybe we'll put an espresso machine in the IP there or something. But I, as a design educator, also I love to share the experience of design, and the process is so rewarding when you can kind of not only be part of the setting of the goals, but then the manifestation. And the style part of it is, it's almost secondary. I mean, I spend a lot of time adjusting things so that they look right and that your eye is not disturbed. But to mix that with a pure efficiency goal is such a wonderful journey. And I think we've got a product that's super compelling for its time. And its time is now, and its time is tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Our automotive landscape is changing rapidly for the better, and it's wonderful to see so many diverse vehicles and so many diverse things. this is a special vehicle for its conditions. Not everybody wants, I don't need to go 1,000 miles. I can't even, drive for that long, whatever. But it's also, part and parcel. We have this freedom to use all of our technology and manifest itself. And efficiency is such a key part. Everything is rapidly becoming more efficiency through technology. And we also want to give that freedom of mobility. Not everybody wants to ride around and share a 12-passenger minibus, even if it's an electric minibus. That's great. We need minibuses, electrics. We like that entire cities are, have 35,000 electric buses, as one of the cities in China does. We've got the opportunity and maybe a responsibility to be more efficient in all of it. So it's just, again, it's such a joy to be upholden to this ethos and see the best way to manifest it, inside and out.
That's true. It's wonderful to watch and to be a part of. And, all of you along with us for the ride, wonderful to have you along, and lots of exciting things coming up for Aptera. We'll be moving into a new production design facility in the next couple months up ahead. We'll have the next two vehicles, our two new development vehicles coming up soon. We will have lots of exciting things in store. You can find out about all of them and stay in touch with all of them by signing up for our newsletter, which we send out every week, or you can also sign up to follow us on social channels. And that's the best way to stay updated. And we're so thankful for all of your support. We're so excited about the future and all the great things coming ahead for Aptera. We'll have lots of these other webinars coming soon, technical and other topics. And we look forward to seeing everyone there. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Bye.
For sure.